Hi everyone and welcome to Soda Pop Chats. And as promised, I want to give you my full recap, analysis, and theories of Betty la Fea, la historia continúa. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get right to it. I want to start off by talking about all the articles and press releases that came out before the series started airing, and they were basically saying that this was going to be a better, more empowered Betty. Now, this first season, there are some seeds that maybe she could get there, but I feel like she's dealing with a midlife crisis. There's a lot of self-doubts and doubts in her marriage, and she let the misinterpretations and manipulations by others affect her marriage and her perception of herself. And so she is struggling, as is Armando. And I feel like she did what she always does. She ran away instead of trying to find out what the root of the problem was. And she could have benefited for therapy, considering everything that happened in her own life. But she looks like she doesn't go. And the person who does seem to go to therapy, and it's more like a group therapy type of thing, is Armando. And it's not the ideal type of therapy, but at least he's trying. He's trying to get better. Is he perfect? No. He's still making terrible business decisions. But I feel like some of those business decisions wouldn't have happened if Betty had been in his life and involved in the business. But otherwise, he seems like he had stayed committed and faithful to Betty. He never took off his wedding ring. She did. So he seems to still be committed to her and wants to fight for her. And he also wants to redeem himself once again in the company. But there are certain people that are bad influences in his life and maybe in hers as well. I mean, I think with Betty, it's more people that they have good intentions, but they're not helping. Armando has people with bad intentions. And Armando, I feel like, has two angels. He has Freddie, who's his good advice angel and tries to help him. And you have Mario, who came back, and he's always been that devil on his shoulder, giving him terrible advice. And also now you have his lawyer, Maria Jose, who they call Majo, who I think is one of the villains of the story, because I don't see any good qualities in her. She's trying to, get Armando at all costs. It was the type of woman that he would have probably dated back in the old novella, but he's not interested in pursuing that. But I think she has something on him, or he just doesn't want to disrespect her. But I really wish he would just say, you know what, leave me alone. But as of right now, he is putting up with this woman because he thinks that she's helping him with these legal issues. So, but she's just very manipulative, and I think she's going to be one of these major villains in the story. The actress who plays her says that she's like a fly. I think she's more like a moth. She wants to look like a butterfly, but she's just this nasty bug that just ruins everything. That's my view of that character. Now, the other villain in this story is Nacho. Nacho is basically this mystery. He is like, I like to think of him like an onion. We're peeling the layers. We're finding out who he is. And some of it is kind of stinky, because his motives are not pure, and he wants just to destroy basically the Mendozas and I think even the Valencias. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does next, because he is the one that kind of pushes Marcela to do this plan of revenge, because she's very resentful, not only of the things that happened in the past, but also because her brother Daniel went to prison, and she blames Betty for that, because Daniel had done stuff within Ecomor that was apparently illegal, but she didn't know who it was, and the authorities found out it was Daniel, and they sent him to prison. And so Marcela wants revenge. And so what does she do? She basically rips Betty's family apart. First, her marriage, making Betty think certain things happened that didn't happen. And Marcela's also trying to take away Betty and Armando's daughter, Camila. Marcela is also responsible for pushing Betty out of the presidency before the separation with her and Armando. And Armando doesn't say anything about this plot to push Betty out, because I'm thinking he was trying to resolve the matter and actually keep her as president. But because he had kept that secret along with that kiss, misunderstanding kiss, Betty just couldn't trust. She felt like Armando was keeping things from her. They have this huge argument and she leaves. But when Armando's father dies years later, he basically recognizes the error of pushing Betty out as president and knows that she's the only one that can save the company. So that's why he puts in the will that he wants her back as president and also have shares of the company. So that kind of ruins the original plan with Marcela and Nacho. So Nacho tries to find other ways to fulfill his plan, and it includes getting involved with Mila. And I don't know if there's a genuine interest Nacho has for Mila. Maybe he'll end up being an anti-hero for all we know. I don't think so. I think he's a villain, and he's interested in Mila in some way, either romantically or for the benefit of his plan. But I feel like he's going to get involved with Majo in some sort of way, and they're going to cause more trouble, and I don't like them. So Mila is an interesting character. She's the third person in this trio. She is very much a Mendoza and a Pinzon. She has both the good and bad qualities of each parent. She has her father's temper, has her mother's klutziness. She's impulsive, but she's extremely intelligent, and she's the one that discovers that Nacho's up to no good. And so Mila's almost the hero in the end of season 1, but she still has a lot to learn. We first meet her, she's very immature, but as time goes on, there's more to her. So she's an interesting character to watch and look out for. The dynamic between the Mendoza-Pinzon clan is very interesting. When we start the series, we see that Mila is very much a daddy's girl, that she has her father in the pedestal, and she adores him. She even has a cute nickname for him. While Betty, she calls her Betty. She doesn't even call her mom at first. And it's because she has this wall of resentment. And I don't think it's just because Betty separated from Armando. I think it's because of the years where Betty was working and couldn't balance the family and work. And so Mila felt neglected. So she has those types of issues. Betty was almost hesitant about taking on the presidency again because of this. And Mila basically pushes her because Mila wants to be involved with the company as a fashion designer. So Betty only returns to Ecomoda because of Mila. And throughout the series, you see Betty trying to work on the relationship, and they had various beautiful moments in the novela where you see them bonding and doing things together. And even when Mila and Nacho have that little revelation, that breakup, Betty is there for her daughter. And the sad part is Betty feels like her own story is repeating with her daughter. And the timing couldn't have been worse, because that's when Mila discovers Betty's diary. And in that diary, it's basically, it has mostly the whole story from Betty's point of view, and some of it is very hard to digest, and it shows a different picture of Armando to Mila. So that basically knocked him off the pedestal. So she is angry at her father, not only because of what he did to her mother before they got married, but also because Mila's feeling it even more because she dealt with something similar with, well, almost similar with Nacho, but Mila was a bit smarter and didn't have to deal with half the stuff her mother had to deal with. So season 2, we're probably gonna see Armando trying to repair the relationship with the daughter. So we'll see how that turns out. But I would like ultimately Armando to tell Mila his side of the story and how they fell in love, because I think that's important as well, especially if it's a new audience member looking in this series. I feel like they're kind of lost because we're seeing mostly the negative stuff from Betty's point of view, and we're starting to see some of the good things, and Betty's even trying to defend him, saying he's not a bad man, but it's not clear. So maybe in season 2 they'll give some flashbacks from Armando's perspective, and let's see if it leads to a reconciliation between father and daughter. Meanwhile, we have Betty's father, who is like the type of father that butts in too much in his daughter's business, and I think that also affected Betty's marriage because he got involved way too much, and I think that was probably Armando's problem. I don't think Armando didn't want to include the Pinsons in their lives. I just think Hermes was too much and involved himself too much, and this was even a valid complaint that Betty made, because if Betty didn't want to have a party, her father did the party anyway. If Betty wanted to go out, the father wouldn't let her stay out too late and would even go and pick her up. So Hermes is the type of man that just got way too involved in his daughter's life, and I think that was Armando's problem. I don't think it was a problem of he wanted the Pinsons away from them, not at all. In fact, we see him in the first episode, and he's looking at Mila's 5th birthday, and they're celebrating with the Pinsons, and they're all happy, and it's, you know, a happy moment in their life. And he's sad that he doesn't have that anymore. So I think Betty misinterpreted that, and even if Armando tried to explain it, she would deflect, because I think Betty had the same opinion. And there were times that in this series itself, Betty had to say to her father, you know, I'm a woman, I can make my own decisions, you know, or why did you read this? This is personal. So she stood up for herself a couple of times, which was refreshing, but I feel like some of that problems that they were having was because of Don Hermes. I think everything basically came to a head with episode 8. There was that ending, which basically was like a cliffhanger that you were like, what? That, you know, it led to a lot of misinterpretations and everything like that. You know, Armando, you know, suspects something might have gone on, especially when Betty comes in her daughter's clothes to a business meeting. And then later on he goes and tells Betty he doesn't know if something happened or not, but he still loved her. And she tells him, nothing happened, I didn't sleep with him. And he essentially ends up believing her, which he gave her the benefit of the doubt, as opposed to Betty, who just doubted him. And that, to me, that was kind of sad. And so I think that moment, with everything that went on, plus the revelations at that meeting with Nacho, things were becoming clear to Betty, and she's still very confused. She's pressured into signing that divorce by her daughter, and she decides to go to Cartagena, which was her place of peace. And there she remembers she forgave Armando, and so Armando goes and tries to give her what she wants, and which is the divorce. He doesn't want to divorce her, but at this point, you know, he feels like he's lost her. I feel like it reminded me of the original telenovela when he resigns at Comoda, and it gave me that deja vu. So, and then the very next scene we see is Betty is still in Cartagena and she's with a mystery man. But this scene gave me hope. Why? Because I think this mystery man is definitely Armando. Why? Okay, I'm gonna show several pictures as to why I think this is Armando. Number one, this gentleman is holding 2 cocktails in his hand. At one point you see his hand and he has a wedding ring. And as we know, Armando never took off his wedding ring. The only time he took off his wedding ring was when he was in prison, and that was because he was forced to. Other than that, he always had his wedding ring. Number 2, one of the cocktails, and it's the cocktail he hands over to her, has a white rose. And anyone who knows the meaning of white roses knows that it's a symbol of eternal love and new beginnings. So I think they're going to start again. I think Betty understood a lot of things and wants to give this another chance. And plus, she feels like she's finally herself, because even her daughter says, look, you're beautiful no matter what. And so she's finally accepting who she is. So now she can accept her love for her husband again, I think. That's my opinion. The third thing is, if you do a close-up on Betty's glasses, you can kind of see the outline of the gentleman who's handing her the cocktail. And the shape of the head looks very similar to Armando, and that's just my opinion. So I think this is Armando, and they're going to go into season 2 trying again. And I think they are going to have a new beginning, and they're going to try and make this work. And I always said, them together, they did things so much better. They were a great team, and that's the only way they're going to defeat Nacho and Majo and anyone else who tries to get in their way. So we'll see. Season 2, I also would like to see Marcela move on from this whole Mendoza Pinzon. I think we need to find her something new, something joyful. And I think Pascual is going to be the remedy to that, and it's going to bring some comedy and light to that. There are other characters I did not go over here. I just wanted to talk about the ones I was interested in, and I feel they're central to this story. So overall, I enjoyed the series. There were a few episodes that, were just okay. Other ones that I loved. But my only problem is I feel like there were too many characters in this short format. In the telenovela, it was fine. You have time to play with everyone in that type of format. But this series, it's just too many people, and it just distracts on the main storyline. I know that they're there for more the comedy purpose of it all, but I just feel like we could have understood a bit more as to what was going on with our main characters if they focused less on certain side storylines. But beside that, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to season 2. From what I've learned, it is filmed, so it all depends on when Prime decides that they're going to release these. Maybe they're just, re-editing. Maybe they're going to do some reshoots. Who knows? But when that comes out, maybe we can come back and discuss. Who knows? Anyway, did you like the series? Are you going to watch the series? Let me know in the comments. Also, for this channel, do you like this type of longer conversation that I'm having right now, or would you prefer the shorter videos that I strive to come out with a little bit more, because I want to cover as much as possible? So let me know in the comments. And please, this is trying to do something positive with a genre of life that I enjoy, which is pop culture and entertainment. But anyway, I thank you for watching, and I thank you for your patience, because this was a lot to go over, and I hope I did my best to inform you of my opinion and why I love this whole universe of the Bettyverse. And so That's basically it. So remember to like, subscribe, and comment on my channel. And until next time, and keep watching your favorite shows. And if there's a show you think I should watch and maybe talk about, let me know. Anyway, till next time, and thank you again.